Hi, welcome to my studio. My name is Carrie Waltz. I share tips, tools, and techniques for the artist in you. Today, my focus is on clouds, one of my favorite things to paint and just to watch and look at and be obsessed by. Whatever your relationship with clouds, I hope it's something similar to mine because it's a lot of fun. They're always changing, but painting them is a challenge. And Bethany Fields from Pastel Live this past week presented her painting and did a demo on how she creates her work. And so it was really interesting to see how she used her fan brush and a dried washcloth to soften the edges and all sorts of things. But just the technique that she started with a soft peachy tone underneath was a neat way to see how the warmth is carried throughout the piece. So follow me on this demo. My work is 5 by 7 inches on watercolor paper that has clear gesso painted on top for a little grit. So hope you'll like it and give me a thumbs up if there's anything helpful, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bethany Fields did a demo yesterday on these clouds in Paladura Canyon in Texas, and I used to live in West Texas, and it just brought home so many wonderful memories of the Texas skies that I just wanted to try it. Well, I am doing this for my notebook, so I'm not doing it all in pastel. I'm trying to combine, excuse me, gouache with pastel, and I'm going to try to, as best I can, emulate what she did yesterday. So we'll see how it goes. I did start off with the underpainting of kind of a peach tone and set that with alcohol. So this is gouache, and I'm laying in the shadow area. I mixed ultramarine blue with a little bit of the purple that's in my uh, gouache set, and added a touch of red, which leaned more toward orange, kind of a cad red. And I'm working on a disposable palette, which I absolutely love. And in her, she added a landform back here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that since I have this light color out. I'm using the gouache almost like watercolor right now. It's a very thin wash, and the clouds back in here start to layer and get flatter. So just going to put that in, and I didn't mix up enough. The thing I like about gouache is I can what's it called? Anyway, I can use it again. I can wet it, and it'll wake up again. So I can. That's what I like about it being watercolor, similar. And you can paint light over dark, dark over light. All right, the next thing she did, if I remember right, is go in with her blues. And she started more with a ultramarine blue at the top. I'm having to mix mine. She could use her sticks, and it's going to look darker. And she worked in a variety of strokes. She had some cool tools that she used with the pastels, fan brush, a dry washcloth. It was fun watching her. She's a young Texas artist, and I'm gonna check out her work a little bit more because I'm not familiar with her. Oops, I probably cut in a little more blue than I wanted to because the underneath part is set. I can just push that out, and I want a softer edge so I can lift some of that up, and I do like that. There is a grit on this paper. I started it with clear gesso, so it's watercolor paper with clear gesso. Ooh, and I'm kind of liking the effects I'm getting by lifting the gouache out. Ooh, this might be a new fun thing. All right, I need more of the gray tones. No, it doesn't need to be quite that dark. So lighten that up a little bit, lift that off. Pretty forgiving. Kind of like that. Okay, so I want to go, while I have some of this coolness, she put in a mesa in hers. It's too warm right now. And she has, oh, she had a bunch of foliage up here that she had, but I don't really need to add that until I put in the background. I'm going to put in some warm tones for the land. The directional strokes. And then when it's closer up to me, then the strokes with the grasses and whatever else I want to show are going to be more vertical. I love the warmth that she had in this field or meadow that just the prairie. Oh, that might be a little too cool. If it's cooler, it can go in the, well, it's actually warmer. Well, I can go back over it. I need more peachy tones in here. I'll scumble that in so it's not so exact, but at least it's in there. I'm going to mix a peachy tone. I'm taking this bright magenta, adding some orange to it, mixing it with the neutral that I already had. I think it's going to be way too dark. Yeah, it's good for shadows. I'll put a few of those in here. You want some warm tones in the foreground. Warm tones advance, cool tones recede. I'm going to add some white to that, lighten that up. That mimics what's in the sky. With gouache, if my gouache is too wet, which it might be, I might, because that bottom hasn't really dried yet. With gouache, if it's too wet, it's going to reactivate what's down below it, and kind of wake it up. And sometimes you don't want that. You just want another layer on top. It's kind of like oils in the fact that should be thick over thin. And right now this is very thin. So I'm just playing with the different layers, not necessarily in the order she did it in, obviously. But that's a distant land way off in the distance. I want it cooler, and I'm going to have to lighten that up. I know it's in the shadows, but I'll get to that later. I need to come back to the sky. All right, let's get back to the sky. A little scattered. I'm also trying to do this fairly fast because today's demos start in a little bit, and this is left over from yesterday. So as you work the sky, you want to get lighter as you get closer to the land. And so I'm going to add a little more of the cerulean color instead of the ultramarine. Okay, and see that hard edge right there? I'm going to wipe my brush, come back and just lightly scumble it to lift that off. Okay, I'm going to make a thicker consistency. That still might be too dark. Yeah, that's way too dark for, it doesn't look like it when you, still might be too dark. I think this dries darker than, yeah, too dark. This is a little thicker than what I just put on, but I can also add pastels over this, which is kind of cool because there's grit in the paper. So I'm barely touching the paper now. It's just a dry brush effect. You lay your brush kind of sideways, like it's laying down taking a nap. I just definitely need to, ooh, that was way too cool. That is messing up the feel of that. So definitely need to, yeah, add more warmth with the orange. It's too dark. Okay, I think that's still too dark, but I'm going to soften that because it's too hard of an edge. And these are clouds, and I want them to feel more poofy and flowy. And she hit hers with a dry washcloth and blurred the edges. I think because this gouache dries so fast, and she was working with pastel. I think I'll just stick to adding a little dampness. That's a little confusing. All right, I want some more of the clouds going off the page, so just creating a little bit of layers here. This is still too dark to be so far down, and so I'm going to need to layer some light on top of it. Thought it was lighter than that, but it does dry darker. And there's always a breeze in Texas, so just kind of want to indicate that with the movement of the clouds. And put a few other colors low in the ground. Barely touching the paper. Okay. That's not bad. Maybe a little more yellow. Lifting off some from yesterday's paintings. That is still too dark. Come back with a thicker white. I'm going to try, see what this will do. She used a fan brush a lot. It was so fun to watch how she would manipulate the colors, and I lost my heel back here. I'm going to put it back. Or maybe it was lower. Oh, it was lower down here. Oh, let's try that again. That muted blue. Ooh, that's too green. Get more of a blue-green in there. Trying to add a touch of my turquoise. Ooh, well, big touch. How about that? It's going to be too dark. That's better. Landform way off in the distance. But you want it light. It's not light enough. She added a touch of peach to it just to, because it is very similar to the land that I'm painting. There's a lot of orange and pinks in that. Man, that's still getting... I might have to come back over that with pastel because that is not changing much. Okay, so up here she had... I'll try to do it with the fan brush. I haven't painted gouache with the fan brush, but oops. Sorry. I'm just lifting up. let it dry. I'm gonna see if I recorded anything at all. Okay, some of it did get videoed, which I'm thrilled with. Now I'm just going to add a few random, well, not really random, some darker, that's not dark enough. She had quite a bit of foliage up close here, and I just want to kind of scumble it in just to indicate that there is foliage here and a little bit of difference in size over here on this side. I don't know if that helped at all. Have a little bit up on this hill. Break up that. I want some blue. Yeah, this isn't, yeah, crazy. It's actually lighter, brighter than what was down there. So I had a hard time getting it light enough. I guess I wasn't hitting it dark, heavy enough to cover up the underpainting. So now coming back with the pastel, I can play with that a little bit more. I don't have a lot of colors here. This is just the Nupastels. I think this is some of my 24 set. I was trying to limit what I used, to learn to limit what I use. I mean, whoop, should not have done that. That was a mistake. Oh well, happy accident maybe. Not gonna worry about it. The paper I'm using is not a real high grade watercolor paper. It's fairly inexpensive, but it just is allowing me to capture some of the notes in picture form, and I'm really liking that aspect of it. The grit, there's plenty of grit on here with one layer of clear gesso. So you can even see the texture of it. I'm kind of liking the combination of the two mediums. When I look, my eye's being drawn here because there's a hard edge next to the distant field, distant mountain. That's not a mountain. I'm just going to knock that down a little bit and wet that. Ooh, now it's way too bright, but if I keep wetting it, I'm going to wake up that gouache underneath and merge that together. Kind of looks like a lake now. I don't like that. And that spot bothers me. Want to mute that. All right, so the way she did it is she added, I probably should let that dry. Ooh, probably. But see, I'm not. Dragging a little bit of the orange across because orange and blue neutralize each other because they're opposite on the color wheel. Also want to make that a little lighter. And you see it's all spotted and dotty because I didn't let it dry first. Alright, so I'm going to get a dry brush and see if I can lightly blend that pastel. I can, but it's not reading. It's reading more water than... It is not water. Alright, so if I don't want it to look like water, if I vary the shape of it just a little bit, I kind of come up, make more of a... I mean, Texas is pretty flat, so I don't want to create anything too unbelievable. It's not flat everywhere, but West Texas is pretty flat. Man, they have wonderful, wonderful skies. I really missed that when I moved to Georgia. I was kind of claustrophobic because I couldn't see the horizon line. It was really kind of funny. All right, now I don't like that. So I'm going to knock that back down. I'll just leave it to the viewer's eye. Now that's a tangent. That stops right there. So I'm going to break the line of that and bring that up just a bit. Kind of take the attention away from that landform. Or make this one a little taller. Yeah, you know, that's an artist license. You can move the land around. Did y'all know that? It's kind of fun. I don't mind that at all. You want some color that's in the land, also in your sky. And now we can brush that off. I think my sky is now light enough at the bottom. I have to be careful with the brush here because I don't want to knock off all my pastel. I am going to set it with SpectraFix and we'll see what it looks like. Once again, my video stopped recording. I don't know what's wrong with it, but at least I got most of this filmed. I was able to seal it and put it in my notebook, which made me so happy. This was a reminder of beautiful Texas skies. Thanks for joining me today. Give me a thumbs up if you got anything out of this, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Really appreciate those of you who have. Hope to see you next week. Signing off.